I had been waiting half a year for my custom medical equipment to finally arrive. 6 agonizing months of physical therapy, endless insurance battles, and pain management that barely scratched the surface. When the delivery company called that morning to confirm, a wave of relief hit me. At last, I thought, at last, I can finally begin real recovery. I live in Oak Ridge Estates, a pristine suburban community with manicured lawns, matching houses, and rules that seem carved in stone. It looks pleasant enough on the outside, but anyone who lives here knows the truth. It's ruled with an iron grip by the HOA. And sitting at the top of this little empire was Karen Wilkins, mid-50s, perfect blonde bob, a permanent grimace that made it seem like the whole neighborhood smelled faintly rotten. The delivery truck rolled up at noon. I was watching from my window, practically itching to get outside and help the driver with the oversized package. But before I could even open the door, I saw her, Karen, storming across my lawn, clipboard in hand, her scowl sharper than broken glass. "Excuse me," she snapped at the driver, her voice like a siren. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" The poor guy, probably no older than his 20s, blinked in confusion. Delivering a package. To this address. He pointed at my house. I stepped outside, moving as quickly as my condition allowed. "Yes, that's mine," I said, nodding toward the driver. "Medical equipment I've been waiting months for." But Karen cut me off, positioning herself squarely between us like a guard dog. "Karen Wilkins, president of the Oak Ridge Estates HOA," she declared, drawing out each word as if it were a royal decree. "And we have very strict regulations about deliveries." I could already feel my blood pressure climbing. "Karen, this is medical equipment. Insurance approved. Necessary for my recovery." Her eyes narrowed, scanning me from head to toe as though she were trying to diagnose me with nothing more than contempt. "Then you should have submitted a delivery request form at least 2 weeks in advance. Section 23, paragraph 4 of the bylaws." She tapped her clipboard for emphasis. The driver shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, I just need a signature so I can drop this off and move on." Karen turned to him, her lips curling into a smile that never touched her eyes. "I'll handle it. Leave the package with me. I'll see that it's properly processed." "Absolutely not." I snapped, pushing forward despite the pain it cost me. "Karen, this is expensive, custom-made medical equipment. I need it today." She raised an eyebrow, dripping with false sweetness. "If it's that important, you should have followed the rules. That's why we have them." The driver, clearly out of his depth, held out the electronic pad. "I just need a signature from the resident." Before I could even lift my hand, Karen snatched it. "As neighborhood representative, I'm confiscating this package until the proper documentation is filed. It'll be held at the community center. In the meantime..." I stared at her, stunned. "Karen, that's theft. You have no right to take my property." She laughed, a short, cruel little sound. "It's not theft. It's enforcement of community standards. You'll get it back once you submit the paperwork and pay the rush delivery fine, $200. The driver looked trapped, caught between us. I can't just hand this over to someone else." Karen's expression hardened into stone. "Do you want me to call your supervisor? I'm sure they'd love to hear how you're disrupting our peaceful neighborhood." That was it. I pulled out my phone. "Karen, if you don't step aside right now, I'm calling the police. This is my house, my delivery, and my property." She rolled her eyes. "Go ahead. My husband golfs with the police chief. They know how important it is to maintain order here." Without breaking eye contact, I dialed 911. "Yes, I need to report a theft in progress. Someone is attempting to steal my medical equipment right now." Karen's face flushed red, but instead of backing down, she doubled down. While I was still on the phone with dispatch, she somehow pressured the nervous delivery driver into loading my package into her oversized SUV parked across the street. How she managed it, I still don't know, but I watched in disbelief as my lifeline disappeared into the back of her car. Maybe it was a sheer weight of Karen's entitlement, or maybe the delivery driver simply wanted to escape the nightmare unfolding on my lawn. By the time I finished explaining the situation to the dispatcher, Karen was already slamming her car door shut, my medical equipment locked in her trunk. "You'll get this back once you learn to respect the rules," she called through her open window, smug and defiant. "I've just described your vehicle to the police." I shouted back, "They're on their way, and this is grand theft." Karen only smiled, waved as though brushing me off, and drove away, leaving me stranded in my driveway, phone in hand, in utter disbelief. 20 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled up. I laid everything out, the order confirmation, the tracking information, even the HOA bylaws on my phone, proving there was no such rule about delivery requests. One of the officers, Detective Rodriguez, listened intently, jotting down notes. "So she knew this was medical equipment and took it anyway?" he asked, his face hardening. "Yes," I confirmed. She acknowledged it, said I had to file paperwork first. Rodriguez's expression grew grim. "The value alone puts this into grand theft. But since it's medical equipment, that opens the door to even more serious charges." He immediately called dispatch, ordering officers to Karen's address. As we waited, I told him about Karen's long history of weaponizing the HOA, arbitrary fines, constant surveillance, and her use of the board as her own personal hammer. Rodriguez listened, nodding slowly. "People like that," he muttered. "They get drunk on the tiniest sip of power. But taking medical equipment? That's not petty tyranny anymore. That's criminal." An hour later, my doorbell rang. Rodriguez stood there smiling, while 2 officers carefully carried my medical equipment inside. "We recovered your property," he said. Ms. Wilkins wasn't exactly cooperative, but once we explained the severity, she didn't have much choice. Relief crashed over me. "Thank you. Is she in trouble?" "Oh, yes," Rodriguez said, a glint of satisfaction in his eyes. "She's been arrested. Grand theft of medical equipment is a felony. Up to 3 years in prison, plus fines. Even with a good lawyer, she's looking at real consequences." Just then, my phone buzzed repeatedly. Oak Ridge Estates was already ablaze with gossip. The HOA board had called an emergency meeting, sending out emails about a leadership transition and an unfortunate incident involving the now former president. Rodriguez chuckled when I showed him. "Looks like her reign of terror is officially over. We'll need a formal statement from you tomorrow." As he left, he paused in the doorway. "Most HOA complaints we get are civil matters. Nothing we can touch. But Ms. Wilkins? She crossed a line when she decided the rules gave her the right to steal. That mistake is going to cost her." Later that evening, my phone rang again. It was Ted, the HOA's vice president. "Is it true?" he blurted out. "Karen was arrested for stealing your medical equipment?" "It's true," I confirmed. Ted let out a long whistle. "The board just voted unanimously to remove her, effective immediately. She's also been fined a maximum $5,000. Before I could respond, a commotion outside caught my attention. Through the window, I saw Karen being dropped off by her husband. She had posted bail. But she didn't look like the imperious woman who had strutted across my lawn earlier that day. Her once perfect hair was disheveled, her designer clothes rumpled, her face blotchy from tears. Our eyes met across the distance. For the first time, I saw something other than arrogance in her expression. I saw fear, the dawning realization that her power had vanished, that she was no longer untouchable. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then shut again, retreating into her house while neighbors lingered outside, watching the spectacle with barely concealed satisfaction. Weeks later, the case went to court. The judge handed down her sentence: 18 months probation, a $7,000 fine, and 200 hours of community service, ironically assigned at a medical equipment distribution center for low-income patients. When the verdict was read, Karen's carefully constructed facade shattered. Her wail echoed through the courtroom as mascara streaked down her cheeks. She collapsed into her chair, sobbing, clinging to her last excuse. "But I was just enforcing the rules," she cried. The judge didn't even look up as he moved on to the next case. Karen Wilkins, once the untouchable queen of Oak Ridge Estates, was left to drown in the consequences of her own arrogance. And for the first time in years, our neighborhood finally felt free.